Planning Panel. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'm the chair of the panel and my name is Annalise Tour. Joining me today are Helen Lockhead via video conference and Julie Savitt-Ward, who are the expert members of the panel. The community representative is Peter Ryan. Today we have people registered to address the panel at the public meeting. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes and any extension of time will be at my discretion as chair. After hearing this, the public meeting will be closed and the panel will deliberate and make our decision. The minutes of the panel's decision, including our reasons, will be available on Council's website as soon as possible after the public meeting. You should be aware that the panel meetings are recorded and the audio recordings will be uploaded on Council's website. Each member of the panel has been asked prior to the meeting to advise whether they have a conflict of interest to declare in relation to any item on the agenda, and I can confirm that no conflicts of interest have been declared. So the first registered speaker is Councillor Kathy Nielsen.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to address the panel. I'm Councillor Kathy Nielsen, Randwick Councillor for North Ward. I fully support the officer's recommendation for refusal. The report outlines very forcefully, so I don't need to repeat them. They are clearly set out in the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members?
No, thank you.
Thanks. Simon Fontea. Are you there? It was there, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's done there.
Simon, we can't hear you.
You're on mute, Frank.
Simon, are you there? We can't hear you. Can you hear us?
I don't think he can hear you because he's not responding. He's now trying to call you.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for that to happen, we might move on to Bill Brennan.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address the panel. Obviously, my name's Bill Brennan. I chair the local Clovelly Precinct Committee, and from time to time we get the DAs to comment from local residents. And we had this opportunity last year when Simon Fontaine approached us, has put together an extremely comprehensive and well-argued case for the Heritage Register of 11A Marcel Avenue. We thought it was extremely good, and it gives us the opportunity to further advance the heritage content of Randwick, which doesn't have a long history of looking after its heritage. All the members were impressed with the quality of the presentation, and I'm very pleased to be able to support support the rejection of the submission and support the extension of that really important section of heritage construction in Marcel and Moira Avenues. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, it's Simon Fontaine here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you now. I'll just check that the panel members don't have any questions of Bill Brennan.
No, thank you.
No. All right, so
Good,
Simon,
thank you.
your
Bye.
turn to speak now. We can hear you.
Yes, thank you. So
It's all right, Simon. Bill was just exiting. So go ahead.
Yeah, so it's Simon Fontaine here from 15 Marcel Avenue, Coogee. So my wife and I reside at the adjoining property, and we've been there for more than 10 years, and we've lived in Randwick for more than 20 years. I'd like to support the council's rejection of this DA on the grounds of what they specified in paragraph 7. I think that that's very, very clear, and I think that the council has done an excellent job in extending the Moira Crescent Heritage Conservation Zone to include my property and the adjoining property at number 11A, which has, as identified, many heritage items of significance, not only to Randwick, but to the state. And I support the refusal on those grounds as per paragraph 7.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Right, and then on the applicant is Marcello Russo. You're on mute.
Okay, hello, how are you? I suppose I'm the only one that's sort of against the refusal, not purely from a heritage point, purely from a structural point of the property and a heritage point, which I think has been outlined in our reports. But at the time of lodging the DA, the block has 5 apartments, 4 2-bedders and one 1-bedder. The 1-bedder sits underneath the 4 2-bedders. The property is sitting at an elevation of 12 metres from Marcel Avenue down to the backyard, and the retaining walls and the footings are all presently moving. It had no heritage at the time of doing the lodgement. The main council asset stormwater, the 450 that runs through in the middle of the property, has no easement and has been failing for the last 17 years. So since 2007, over 15 years, the council stormwater, which is not untitled, has been failing on that property. The family at the time when we lodged the DA, and has never lodged a DA since owning the property, which is 60 years being in that area. Not 20, not 15, but 60. Theo is now 84 years old, and the children felt something needed to be done due to the damage caused by the stormwater on the property. It was determined the best way to fix the building was to demolish, investigate, and work out the best outcome with the stormwater, the overall design and the rehabilitation of that site. At the time of lodging the DA, that we discussed, the property had no planning reasons why it could not be demolished, nor the property was listed as heritage, nor been noted on any council heritage reports, nor the property owners been notified in any way over the past 60 years that the families own that property. If you look at the heritage reports completed in the area, there has been no mention of 11A Marcel Avenue in that whole period in all those times. That means heritage officers and experts have walked past 11A property more than likely more than one time on any occasion, and obviously did not think that the property was that significant. The evidence information that we rely on, I've sent to the panel and the council have already, between 1 and 6. And the property will tell the story as well. So the conclusion is, financially, I put some figures of the property there. We've rented the property since we've owned the property. Financially, it doesn't make sense. We're unable to develop because of the heritage item. Unable to demolish any part or to rehabilitate the property because of heritage. The council will take no responsibility for the failed asset. So I'm not quite sure what we can do. The property is not a normal 2-story bungalow apartment block that sits on flat land. It sits on top of Marcel Avenue down to a backyard of 12 metres, sits on top of an escarpment which drops down 40 metres down to Richard Avenue. The footings and the retaining walls are all moving, and we've all got proof of that in 4 different reports. The concrete cancer, the damage that the council asset's done, and this has been noted by council that it has damaged the property, and they've encased it. We've recently had sinkholes, which had to get fixed even the last couple of months. There's water mildew. As owners, we have explained all these issues to council ourselves through heritage, engineers and geotech experts and lawyers and planning. We do put the council on notice of these issues. In the last 6 months, the family has written even to council engineering team themselves to see if they would help on the stormwater. No response. We've even hired a lawyer to speak to the engineering department, written 2 lawyers, phone calls, no response in 6 months. The family wants to fix the property. It is an eyesore and it's going to fall down at some point. We are stuck and cannot do any more at this point if council stop the demolition or partial demolition placed on this listing of the property, and the engineering's review needs to be fixed. We don't know what else we can do as owners. The council has on numerous occasions asked us to withdraw this application. We will not withdraw the application. However, we want this on record, all the documentation, all the engineering reports, and it's not as if we're not against heritage, but the building has serious issues. You can see that when you see it. And heritage or no heritage, it might have some heritage items on the front of the property, but the back of the property is failing. And not me saying it, it's engineers saying it. It's not the family saying it. We just want to fix it and put something even back or keep, or something has to be done. We can only hope by presenting this to the panel and the council that someone will listen. The property and experts reports speak for themselves. We hope that the council does not have a major structural collapse, because this would occur a very high liability issue for the council and its members. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from panel members?
I guess I have a comment more than a question, Mr. Russo. You make some comments about that you're stuck and you're unable to develop because of the heritage listing. I guess what I would say to you is that the DA development application before us is for full demolition of the building. So that's what we're considering. Partial demolition and perhaps reconstruction of some of the areas that are obviously in need of work isn't before us for today. So we can't consider that option, but that is certainly something available to you at a later point. So just because you have heritage listing on a property doesn't mean you can't do anything to it. So I would encourage you to work with council to clarify what can be done and what can't. And if you look at the heritage report that accompanied the listing, you will see that there are opportunities to do things. So you shouldn't consider yourself stuck and that you can't do anything given it has been listed as a heritage item. That's not the case. But before us today is the development application, which you didn't withdraw, which is for full demolition of the building. So that's all we can consider today because that's what's in front of us. So I just wanted to clarify that as such. Thank you.
Can I reply?
Sure.
Yes.
So we've had those discussions with council planning, and they're saying it's very limited to what we can do. We've got to keep something like 80% of that structure. It's not possible. You saw the concrete cancer sitting at the back of that property. It's on the ledge. If we remove that retaining wall, which is 12 meters higher, what's going to happen? So engineering wise, we've even asked council engineers to help us with the damaged asset. No one speaks to us at council. No one has the dialogue. When we speak to planning, those planning don't want to talk about it. They say it's got a heritage item on it.
So all I can say is that what I said before is correct. Just because it's got a heritage order on it or a heritage listing on it doesn't mean you can't do partial development and reconstruction. And I encourage you to sit with council and to work it out. You will need, of course, experts on your justifying your requirements to assist in that process. But I'm just clarifying what you said. You said you are stuck. You're not stuck. You can do things.
No, we are stuck because financially it doesn't make sense. We're trying to fix what? We're trying to fix something which has probably got now $3 or $4 million worth of work just to fix what it is to put it back today.
So I can't.
It doesn't make
that.
economic sense, and we did not make the damage. We didn't cause the damage. Council.
So I can't. Unfortunately, I can't comment on that. But
Well,
I'm just letting you know we can only consider what's in front of us, which is for full demolition of the.
No, appreciate that, but can someone speak to people in council to call us? Because someone just arrange a meeting from engineering to someone to have that discussion? Because we've spent 6 months, probably 10 phone calls, probably $15,000 in costs just in that section for someone from engineering to discuss it. We've even offered that we'd give another area of the property the title for this stormwater and to try and fix it long term. But no one answers our calls. We've been here for 60 years. My extended family have been here for 100 years. We have been paying taxes and rates in this whole area all our life. So
I hear your frustration.
Yeah. And
I hear your frustration, and we can certainly make a note in our minutes and a notice to what we think, how to progress or how to get things going from but it's not in terms of what's in front of us.
No,
but we will certainly see what we can do. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you saw the property today, and that's all I know that you can do today, and I appreciate that. I think you're going to see my concern and what's gone on here, because it's embarrassing, really, of what's gone on here for what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to knock down the heritage conservation of Coogee. You know, I live in Paddington Wallara. I do more heritage than a lot of people building in a lot of parts of Sydney. I love heritage. I bought the oldest house in Bondi. It was built in 1820. I'm restoring it. I'm not a person that wants to get rid of heritage. It's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to get the council and people in the council to understand our issues, or just someone to talk to us, like normal people, to try and resolve something.
That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Probably just a comment, just as a community rep, just that we're we've heard your views and concerns, so we'll capture those and yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think you see my frustration with the whole thing.
Yes.
But we want to spend money and fix it properly, but we can't. It doesn't financially work at the moment.
Yeah, I think as Julia said, we have a role, and our role is to deal with the application that's before us, which is for demolition of the whole of the building. And we have to consider that in relation to the framework, that's the legal framework, which is under the Environmental Planning Assessment Act. And essentially, in you considering a demolition application for demolition of a whole heritage item, it's normally based on the significance of that item. And there would need to be justification that the building is not significant for all of it to be demolished, or there would need to be evidence that the whole building cannot be reused, et cetera, et cetera. It's not feasible in terms of its structural condition for it to be reused. So that's essentially how we would be considering this application. And before us, we don't really have that evidence. And I understand that there was the start of an appeal against the interim heritage order, which was, which potentially would have decided those heritage issues before it got listed, and that was withdrawn. So what's before us now is a listing of the building having heritage significance, which doesn't mean that every single part of the building has heritage significance. And as Julie mentioned, in the heritage impact statement, there's a diagram that says, areas that are of higher significance and areas that are of lesser significance, which potentially could be considered to be adapted and demolished or whatever, and changed. So heritage items aren't frozen in time. They can have development applications where parts of them are demolished and there is further development. But when those applications get considered, they're considered in relation to the impact that that development will have on the heritage significance of the item. Normally, when those DAs are considered or contemplated, you have expert advice. So it's not you dealing with it all by yourself. You basically get people that are experts in the field that give you advice before you come anywhere near council about what you can do, what your options are as an owner for what you can do with that property. And once you've got sort of a scheme that your experts have recommended is a feasible scheme in terms of respecting the heritage significance of the item, then you can approach council, etc. So that's, you know, your sort of path forward, and that may then involve partial demolition of the item. The issue of the stormwater, that's a separate issue from this, that it's essentially, you know, you dealing with council because of the issue that saying that stormwater is causing damage to your property. That's not something that's within the remit of this panel to deal with. We deal with things under the Environmental Planning Assessment Act. We don't deal with issues to do with compensation, et cetera, et cetera. The only relationship that would have to this application or a future application would be the extent of damage that's been caused to the building and whether building or parts of the building have irretrievably lost their significance. So that's how that would come into play. So we can't really help you with that. Noting that Councillor Nielsen has been listening to this conversation and we'll have council officers listening to the conversation. So it's presumably within their remit to try and assist you in dealing with the term solution as to the stormwater and whether that has or will in the future cause damage to your property. So having said that very long explanation, that's essentially where our position at the moment is in terms of we're dealing with an application which is for total demolition of it.
No, appreciate that and that explanation. Thank you. Just what I like to say at the time, it didn't have an heritage order when we put that DA in.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to deal with what was on the site, and we've been trying. And we spoke to council about some other ways of keeping part of the building, but the parts you keep and the cost to do that with the damage there, financially, it doesn't in parking and high, it doesn't work out. So the only real resolution to we're gonna lodge another DA, but that outcome financially doesn't work out because the cost gets up to tens of millions and you can't recoup the money. So then we're trying to rehabilitate the site. So, you know, we are stuck. We've tried to ring council, they don't reply. So if everyone written legal letters, they don't reply. So that's where we are. We feel that we're stuck. I know it's not in yours, and I get it. I suppose we've got no other voice into council, so it's difficult for us. We're hoping that maybe this somebody can help. This is my last comment. You know, we're hoping someone at council will listen to us to try and resolve the building and the rehabilitation of the building. We just need a bit of help. We're willing to spend some money, but we can't spend $10 million, $15 million on something trying to save a building that we'll never get back.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
No. Helen, you didn't have anything? All right. So thank you very much. That concludes the public meeting. As I said in my opening, the panel meeting will now close and we'll deal with this item. We'll make our decision and the reasons for our decision will be placed on council's website as soon as possible. So thank you all very much for attending, and the public meeting is concluded at 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.